We're just under 2 weeks before the release of Dune Part 2, and so far the word surrounding it suggests that it's going to be a pretty good movie. We don't have any full-length reviews for the movie just yet because there's a review embargo that's going to be lifted later this week, but we did have a social media embargo that was lifted on February 15th, and that's where we're getting a lot of this coming from, and this is what people have to say who got early screenings to the movie. Dune Part 2 is not only Denny's magnum opus, it is the definitive sci-fi epic of a generation. Villeneuve crafts some truly visionary moments. Austin Butler gives a truly transformative performance. Denny Villeneuve sticks the landing with Dune Part 2, a fascinating, terrifying character study told on a gloriously grand sci-fi scale. This isn't necessarily the most surprising thing because Denny Villeneuve has a pretty good track record, and his last Dune movie got 83% for critic score and a 90% for audiences, so a lot of people seem to really like that movie, but the question is also whether this will actually be something similar or not. Going by these early reactions, it does seem like the critics like this new Dune movie a lot more than they like the first one. However, we won't know for certain until the review embargo is lifted later this week. But the big question still remains about whether this movie will be profitable or not. Once again, going back to the first movie as a sort of point of comparison, you can see Dune Part 1 made $391 million because it's close, on a budget of $165 million. So it was pretty much a disappointment for the studio when you consider that, according to the numbers right here, that it needs to make 2.4 times the budget in order to just break even. That would mean it needed to make around $396 million in order for it to break even, and it obviously fell short of that. But the studio could be seeing this as like, okay, this is a little bit of an investment, so we're going to be able to take the loss on this one because it's going to make up the difference in the next movie. And I guess that's a fair way to look at it, but still, the first movie didn't do too well. But you also have to keep in mind this movie had a same day and date release on HBO Max, so there was people choosing to just watch it at home versus paying the premium to watch it in theaters. But yet, despite all that, this movie was still able to bring in $41 million domestically during its opening weekend. And then when you compare it to Dune Part 2, or at least the early forecasting for that, this one's projected to make around $50 to $75 million during its opening weekend. And some people are speculating because there's not a lot of competition in theaters right now because everything else that's been coming out has been kind of a disappointment. Then there's also a lot of positive buzz surrounding the movie that this could actually exceed that 50 to 75 million domestic mark on its opening weekend. One thing going for Dune Part 2 also is that it has a lower production budget, or it's reported to have a lower production budget than the first movie, because I guess the studio was trying to play it a little bit safer in case it wasn't necessarily as successful, but it does look like it's going to do better than the first one. But the production budget on this movie is reported to be around $122 million. So yeah, around $40 million less than the first one, but it still has a positive buzz around it and it's projected to do better. So it looks like this might actually be a profitable movie, but still, according to this article right here, it needs to probably make around $400 million globally in order for it to break even. We saw with Dune Part 1 that it was just shy of that. This one, it's looking like it's going to do better than that. Some people are saying $1 billion. I don't know about that. I think that's a little bit far-fetched, but I think $400 million, maybe even $600 million isn't outside the realm of possibility for this movie. So I'm thinking it is probably going to be a success for the studio and help make up the losses that they had for the first movie. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the first movie and this one has a lot of good words surrounding it. People liked the first one when they saw that eventually, and streaming service helped kind of get the word out there about the movie. And this one, it seems to be more of an action heavy movie that kind of lends itself to more general movie going audiences. So I don't know. This looks like it will be another success and probably the first major success of the 2024 movie going season. And with a lot of the movies coming out this year, it doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot of competition moving forward. I think the next big movie that's going to be coming out is probably Deadpool when that is finally released. But after that, I don't think there's really anything that has this type of anticipation surrounding it. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But either way, 2024 is supposed to be a slow movie going season, except for a few highlights sprinkled throughout it. And I think this is the first of those.